A passport is more than just a travel document. It is a symbol of identity, belonging, and mobility. For some, it is a key that unlocks the world, granting access to hundreds of countries with little more than a stamp at the border. For others, it is a reminder of restrictions, bureaucracy, and the invisible walls that divide nations. The concept of passport power has become a way to measure global privilege, ranking countries by how many doors their citizens can open without a visa. But why do some passports carry more weight than others? The answer lies in a complex web of history, diplomacy, economics, and geopolitics. The origins of passport power. The passport as we know it today is a relatively modern invention. While documents granting safe passage existed in ancient times, the standardized passport system emerged in the 20th century, particularly after World War I. As international borders hardened and nation-states asserted sovereignty, passports became essential tools for regulating movement. Yet from the beginning, not all passports were equal. Colonial empires, alliances, and political rivalries shaped who could travel freely and who could not. By the late 20th century, as globalization accelerated, the passport became not just a document of identity, but a measure of international trust. Countries began negotiating visa agreements, granting each other's citizens easier access in exchange for reciprocity, economic ties, or political goodwill. Out of this system emerged the concept of passport power, the idea that some nationalities enjoy far greater mobility than others. Measuring passport strength. Today, passport power is often quantified by indexes such as the Henley Passport Index or the Arton Capital Passport Index, which rank passports based on how many countries their holders can enter without a visa or with visa-on-arrival privileges. For example, in recent years, passports from Japan, Singapore, and several European countries have consistently topped the rankings, granting visa-free access to over 190 destinations. By contrast, passports from countries facing political instability or weak diplomatic ties, such as Afghanistan, Syria, or Iraq, rank at the bottom, with access to fewer than 30 destinations. The disparity is striking. A Japanese passport holder can travel almost anywhere in the world with minimal hassle, while an Afghan passport holder faces endless visa applications, interviews, and rejections. This inequality reflects not just travel convenience, but deeper global hierarchies of power and trust. Diplomacy and international relations. One of the most important factors shaping passport power is diplomatic relations. Countries with strong, stable governments and positive foreign policies are more likely to negotiate reciprocal visa agreements. For instance, members of the European Union enjoy freedom of movement within the bloc, as well as extensive visa-free access worldwide, thanks to the EU's collective bargaining power. Similarly, countries with close ties to the United States or major European powers often benefit from easier travel arrangements. On the other hand, nations under sanctions or with strained diplomatic relations face restrictions. Citizens of North Korea, for example, are barred from entering many countries due to political isolation. Likewise, countries embroiled in conflict or accused of harboring terrorism often see their citizens subjected to stricter visa requirements. In this sense, a passport is not just a personal document, but a reflection of a country's reputation on the global stage. Economic power and stability. Another key determinant of passport strength is economic standing. Wealthy nations with strong economies are seen as less likely to produce migrants who overstay visas or seek illegal work abroad. As a result, their citizens are granted greater freedom of movement. For example, Switzerland, Germany, and Singapore, all prosperous, stable economies, issue passports that rank among the most powerful. Conversely, passports from poorer nations often face suspicion. Countries with high unemployment, political instability, or histories of mass emigration are perceived as risks by wealthier states, which fear an influx of undocumented workers. This perception, whether fair or not, translates into stricter visa requirements. Thus, economic inequality between nations directly shapes the mobility of their citizens. Security and governance. Passport power is also tied to internal governance and security. Countries with strong institutions, reliable identification systems, and low levels of corruption are trusted to issue secure passports. Biometric technology, anti-forgery measures, and international data sharing agreements all enhance credibility. For example, the European Union's adoption of biometric passports has strengthened trust in its travel documents. By contrast, countries with weak governance or histories of document fraud face skepticism. If a passport is perceived as easy to forge or obtain illegally, other nations are less likely to grant visa-free access. This creates a vicious cycle. Weak governance leads to weaker passports, which in turn limits opportunities for citizens, reinforcing inequality. Geography and regional agreements. Geography also plays a role. Regional blocs often grant their members special privileges. The Schengen area in Europe allows passport-free travel across 27 countries. The Caribbean Community, CARICOM, and the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, provide similar mobility within their regions. These agreements amplify passport power by creating zones of free movement. At the same time, geography can limit mobility. Landlocked or isolated countries may struggle to negotiate broad travel agreements, while nations in conflict-prone regions face additional scrutiny. For example, Middle Eastern passports often face stricter requirements due to regional instability, even for citizens of relatively stable states. Colonial legacies and historical ties. The shadow of colonialism still influences passport power. Former colonies often retained special travel arrangements with their former rulers. For instance, citizens of many Commonwealth countries enjoy easier access to the United Kingdom, while French overseas territories maintain close ties with France. These historical connections can boost passport strength, though they also reflect enduring inequalities in global power structures. The politics of mobility. At its core, passport power is about mobility rights. Who gets to move freely and who does not? It is a form of global inequality that mirrors economic and political hierarchies. A powerful passport is a privilege that opens opportunities for education, business, tourism, and migration. A weak passport, by contrast, can trap individuals within their borders, limiting their horizons. This inequality has real consequences. Students from countries with weak passports face barriers to studying abroad. Entrepreneurs struggle to attend international conferences or expand their businesses. Families are separated by visa restrictions. In this way, passport power shapes not just travel, but life chances. Case studies, passport winners and losers. Consider the case of Japan and Singapore, whose passports consistently rank at the top. Both countries are economically strong, politically stable, and diplomatically active. They maintain positive relations with most of the world, and their citizens are not seen as migration risks. As a result, their passports grant access to nearly every country without a visa. By contrast, the Afghan passport ranks at the bottom. Decades of war, political instability, and association with terrorism have made Afghan citizens subject to strict visa requirements almost everywhere. Even for legitimate travellers, the process of obtaining visas is arduous, expensive, and often humiliating. The passport thus becomes a symbol of exclusion. The United States passport offers an interesting case. Once considered the most powerful in the world, it has slipped in recent rankings. While it still grants access to around 180 countries, political tensions, stricter immigration policies, and declining diplomatic goodwill have eroded its relative strength. This shows how passport power is not fixed but fluctuates with global politics. The future of passport power. Looking ahead, the landscape of passport power may shift in response to global challenges. Climate change, for example, could create new migration pressures, prompting countries to tighten borders. Technological innovations, such as digital passports or global identity systems, could reshape how mobility is managed. Pandemics, as seen with COVID-19, can temporarily override passport power altogether, as countries impose blanket travel bans, regardless of nationality. At the same time, there are calls for greater mobility justice. Advocates argue that freedom of movement should be a human right, not a privilege tied to birthplace. Proposals for regional mobility agreements, humanitarian visas, and more equitable travel policies reflect a growing awareness of the inequalities embedded in passport power. Conclusion. The secret life of passport power reveals much about the world we live in. A passport is not just a piece of paper. It is a reflection of a nation's diplomacy, economy, governance, and history. It embodies global inequalities, granting some people near universal mobility while confining others within invisible borders. For those with powerful passports, the world feels open and accessible. For those with weaker ones, every journey is a struggle against bureaucracy and suspicion. Understanding passport power means recognizing that mobility is not evenly distributed, but shaped by the politics of trust, privilege, and inequality. In the end, the passport in your pocket is more than a travel document. It is a symbol of your place in the global hierarchy, a reminder that in a world of borders, freedom of movement is one of the greatest privileges of all.